Hello, welcome to the 2022-2023 Dance Legality Official Certification course. My name is Sarah Miller-Bate, and I am the Director of Dance Rules for USASF. I've broken up the course into 4 sections, and after completing each section, you'll be prompted to move on to the next. After finishing the 4th section, you then have the option to take the test, or if you're just auditing the course, you'll be complete at that time. Let's take a look at the schedule of this course. First, we'll go through the role of the legality official. Then we'll learn the rules. And finally, we'll review for the virtual test. A little bit more about the testing. A class marker link will be sent after you've completed all 4 sections of this course. 80% is considered passing, and should you pass, you have the option of joining the national list for event producers. Event producers look at this list for legality officials to use at their events. You'll also need to complete your athlete abuse training and a background check. If you've done those recently, they should still be good, but you can always check with Erica Gates to make sure. Her email address will be given a little bit later in the certification. So let's take a look at the intention of the USASF rules. First, we have fair play. By creating a level playing field through divisions and tiers that allow for consistency in competition and rankings, we create fair play between clubs. Next, athlete safety. By analyzing data, we provide guidelines for best practices, including progressions and restrictions for skills that place risk on athletes. And finally, consistency in All-Star. By creating a level playing field through divisions and tiers, it allows for consistency in competition and in rankings. So moving on to our expectations for USASF legality officials. First, we have our eligibility requirements. You must accept the terms and conditions of membership. We'll also need proof of identity. You'll need your background screening up to date through JDP with an expiration date of 5/31/2023 or later. And then you'll also need your abuse prevention education completed, and that's through our new partner, Safe at All Star, with an expiration date of 5/31/2023 or later. As a legality official, we also expect you to take action in some way, shape, or form. So that means warn, ask an event producer, or deduct. Do something, because our position is also one of education, and we want to make sure that clubs know which rules have been broken or where uncertainty is, where you need more clarity in the skills that you're seeing. So take action. Next, legality tracking. We use this information to help inform decisions that are made and rule changes, and then also to track trends within the industry. So we have new additional fields on our submission form. And then you can also take a look at our form stack link that you'll use for that legality tracking. You'll also receive a newsletter in September with that link. And then finally, if you're interested in becoming a legality official at the Dance Worlds, you'll need to be a legality official at a sanctioned competition, and then you'll also make sure that your tracking sheet is submitted after every single event. And I should go back to that second bullet and say that as well. The tracking should be filled in after every single event, whether a deduction was taken or not. Okay, let's move along. So next we have our event producer expectations. These are things that you're going to want to determine with your event producer, and that is the point deduction scale. So is it a sliding scale? Do you start with a 0.5 and go to a 2? What exactly are the expectations the event producers have for you at these events? And then at some events, falls and other deductions are taken that are not governed by USASF. So make sure that you check with the event producer to see if there are any additional rules in their rule book they want you to keep an eye out for. You'll also want to make sure that you have clarity as to whether you're expected to be in the practice room or the judge stand, and what exactly those roles entail. Inquire about whether you have access to video review. Will you have playback? or some kind of recording device that helps you ensure that you're giving the right ruling and that you can use as backup. Next, check to see whose responsibility it is for tracking divisions and categories. Is this an expectation that the event producer has of you, or is that something that they're doing through registration? You'll also want to ask whose responsibility it is to talk to the coach. Are you expected to explain to the coach a deduction, or is there a liaison that acts as that person, that go-to between you and the customer? And then finally, the timing of the routine. How do you record it? And then what is their deduction for over or under time? And then expectations for USASF legality officials to wrap it up. This is Erica's email address as promised a little bit ago. If you have any issues with your legality official profile, if you have any questions about your background check or about our new Safe at All Star abuse prevention training, Erica is the one to reach out to. So take a second and write her email address down now. And then should you come across an ethical dilemma, if you're asked to take a deduction that you don't believe should be there, or if you're asked to ignore a skill that you really think should be warned or action should be taken, any issues like that, please reach out to me immediately at smbate@usasf.net. Let's move along to best practices. So you want to make sure you're in the right mindset. It's very, very different being on panel versus being a safety official or a legality official. So you want to make sure that you're looking at the overall view of the dance and that you're looking through the lens of the dance rules. Make sure that you count the dancers to confirm the division. I also recommend that you use a scratch sheet that's for your eyes only, just to take notes. Maybe you jot down times or costumes of a routine so that you can check them tomorrow. Just a sheet to kind of keep yourself on track that's just for you to take a look at. Next, your timer. Some event producers will allow you to use a phone. You want to make sure that you're not on your phone at these events. So if you're tempted to, then find another timer, a stopwatch, something else that'll work for you. And then you want to make sure that you time the routine from beginning to end. And then also, I use a timer to make note on my scratch sheet of any potential infractions. You want to have a copy of your rules. Always have a paper copy. I tend to have one on my iPad, and then I also have that copy in hand. If I have to talk to a coach, it's just a little bit easier to show them in a printed out copy. And it's also easier for you to take notes should you need to. I also recommend that you use technology. Use your replay, your phone, take pictures of the screen, anything that will help back you up if you need to talk to the coach. Very often an issue can be diffused if you have that backup. I hate to say proof, but it is sort of backup for yourself should you need it. It's a little harder to argue when it's right there photographically evidenced. And then finally, the on-call phone. This is if you need backup when you're at an event. Maybe you just want a skill reviewed, you need a little help with a ruling. You'll call 901 326 4050. You can also text that number, and you may be more likely to get a response back a little bit more quickly with a text. I'll give you a second to write that number down if you haven't already. Moving on. So our best practices for coach interaction. Say your event producer does want you to interact with the coach, to explain a ruling or to clarify a rule, address any uncertainties, those kind of things. Always have a paper copy of the rules. So that's the second time you've heard it. Just make sure you print that out before you get there, or ask your event producer if they'll have a copy available for you. Our rules change form was open July 11th, and it will remain open through mid-September. So you can always remind the coach that if they have an issue with the rule, if they don't think the rule is fair, they are a member of a membership organization that represents them. So they can submit a request to change a rule. You also want to be aware of the pronouns that you use. Instead of approaching and saying you have an illegal skill in your routine, maybe think about using a phrase like tell me about or I noticed that. So taking the confrontation out of it, a lot of these times situations can already be a little elevated. Coaches are kind of excited, adrenaline's going, and to sort of diffuse the situation before you've even entered it, really helps kind of get through that and to keep things again on that educational level. Use photos and videos as needed. So, like we said a moment ago, using technology to help you as backup is highly recommended. And then finally, the USASF Coach app. The coaches and owners have the opportunity to submit all skills through our Coach app for review prior to an event. So, if all else fails, you can remind them they have that tool, they have that resource that they could have used prior to the event. It is also the only way that a coach or owner can receive a verified legality ruling. If they claim to have one, you can ask to see it. So they will have proof in their app if they have received a legality ruling. And if they don't know about it, you can tell them that if they go to the App Store or Google Play and search for USASF Coach, the app will show up and they can download it right there on their phones. So just to wrap our best practices, when in doubt, warn it out. So again, we want you to take action, whether it's educational, you're talking to the coaches about how something is a little, a little close to being illegal or maybe was illegal and why it was, but don't over review. Sometimes when we have the option for playback, we'll watch it a million times over and still not have that really decided outcome. If you have to watch it that many times, just warn it. Make sure that you check the glossary. That's the basis of our rules, and that will help back up any rulings that you have to make. And then finally, read the rules top to bottom. As we go through the rules in a moment, you'll see there are provisions underneath the main rules. And sometimes it's easy to jump down to provision number 3 instead of starting at the top of the rule. So section 1 is complete. Our next section will start to cover the dance rules documents. Section 3 will be individual rules, and then section 4 will be our groups and pairs. I'll see you guys there.